and she thinks, how can I? Oh, she just immediately, without any reservation, just says, have as many fruits as you can carry. So Krishna is running back to his mother and father with his fruits, so happy, and she looks back at her basket, and astonishingly the whole basket is transformed into jewels. She hadn't wanted that, it never occurred to her. She's just thinking, let me give this sweet child some fruits. I don't know what it is about this child. I love children, any mother loves children, but this child has something irresistible and special. So she's giving her fruits, and in the result she gets everything, which is very similar to the story of Sudama, Krishna's childhood schoolmate. When Krishna went to school, again, Krishna doesn't need to learn, no more than he needs fruits, but he went to school. And his school friend, Sudama, very touching story. He was a Brahmin, and he wasn't really any good at earning money, but he got married, and later on, he was very poor, and his wife was sort of saying, come on, you've got to earn some money here. And he couldn't earn any money. And so one day she said, well, look, you're friends with Krishna, aren't you? Didn't you go to school with Krishna? He's a big, opulent ruler now, living in palaces. Go and see him. And Sudama is very reluctant. No, I don't want to go and ask Krishna for anything. I'm happy, I'm satisfied. But she said, no, you must go. So, influenced by his wife, because the wife, she is also a mother, and she has to maintain the household, so naturally she's very conscious of that need, while often the husband, especially if he's a Brahmin, is blissfully unaware of all the work that goes into running the household, typically. Anyway, she persuades him to go, so off goes Sudama to the big city, to Dwarka, and many artists have beautifully illustrated this story in India. And when he comes to Dwarka, eventually, with great misgivings in his heart, he's acting on instructions. It's not something he would have done, but he makes his way into Krishna's presence. And the intention is, of course, he's brought with him the only thing he could find to give Krishna, he had to bring a present. He brought a few grains of cracked rice, which is the cheapest kind of rice that gets rejected, which he'd managed to gather his wife had managed to gather it from their neighbours. And the intention is he's going to give it to Krishna, because when you go to see someone, you bring a present. And then he's going to ask Krishna's help. But as soon as he came into the presence of Krishna and his queen, was it Rukmini or one other queen, Satyabhama, he completely forgets about the rice. Oh gosh, I could never, it would be an insult to give Krishna a few grains of cracked rice living in this great opulent palace. So he just sort of tucks it behind him and hopes Krishna won't notice that he's carrying this bag. And Krishna's so happy to see him, and they embrace with tears, and wonderful to see him. And then Krishna says, oh, have you brought me something, Sudama? And Sudama said, no, nothing. But Satyabhama, the goddess of fortune, she's saw that he got, or Krishna saw he got, so he grabbed the bag of rice, and Krishna started to eat the rice, and we're told he ate just 1 or 2 grains, and then Satyabhama stopped him. Don't take any more. You've already taken enough from Sudama. I mean, he's a very poor man, but she's also thinking that, anyway, she stopped him. She stopped him taking more. Just 1 or 2 grains is all Krishna took. So Sudama was so happy to meet Krishna that he completely forgot, of course, the reason he was there. He's been sent on a mission to ask for Krishna's support. But he completely forgot, he's overwhelmed. Krishna also, lovely story, Krishna sat him down and he bathed his feet. The goddess of fortune also helped, and then they gave him a meal, and after looking after him, eventually sent him on his blissful way back home. And while he's going home, he's just thinking how wonderful Krishna was, and he's in a daze. And then when he gets home, he finds his home is transformed into a palace of gold. And there are, well, we're told he's even got servants. What would he want with servants? But he's got everything. So the moral is that, you know, we do something small for Krishna. It doesn't matter how small. But if we offer what we give with devotion, then Krishna will reward us beyond our wildest dreams. But, Prabhupada says, supposing I'm a rich man puffed up with false prestige and I'm earning lots of money, and I think, oh well, I'll give a little bit to Krishna. Maybe it'll be my insurance policy, you know. Then that offering would not be accepted. Prabhupada says here, that offering will not be accepted because it's not the material goods that Krishna wants. So this is very appropriate, this story today, because I wanted to speak briefly about, well, in fact, two godbrothers, one whom I knew very well, one who is mostly known, I think, to extraordinary to the younger generation in the movement, that's Indra program, who passed away. They both died on the same day, I think, which was Friday, Thursday, last week. And both of whom are examples of people who, you know, gave something to Krishna and got amazing rewards. In the case of Indra, I noticed a picture of him downstairs in front of Prabhupada's Vyasa-san, and he is singing with his heart and soul, and that's what I remember of Indra. I didn't know him terribly well, but in my first time I met Indra, for those of you who don't know, he lived in Vrindavan for the last 30 years, I think, 25 years, and all he did was he chanted Hare Krishna. He maintained the 24-hour kirtan. Well, the first time I met him, I was on Harinam in New York with the devotees in 1975, 76. And they told me, oh, today we're going to go to Harlem. And in those days, Harlem was a rough place. So we went on Harinam in Harlem. And I mean, I wouldn't have thought, because growing up in London, you don't really think of it in terms of no-go areas, not in those days anyway. But apparently, I sort of hearing from the others, Harlem was a no-go area. They used to say the subway goes north to Harlem, and there's a certain stop, I can't remember which one it was, but you know, 100th Street or something or other, you probably know this better than I do, Chinatown. And they said you should never go north of that station on the subway. But anyway, we went down into Harlem, and we were doing Harinam on the street, and while we were there, I think we maybe must have drew up and stopped at a certain place, and we were chanting, and I felt completely safe because we were chanting Krishna's names, and it would never have occurred to me there was any danger, but apparently there was. So, just at that moment, this van drew up alongside us and parked, and I noticed that it just looked like any other van, big white van, but it caused a stir amongst the devotees. They were all looking expectantly towards the van, and suddenly the van started to transform. You know those children's toys, Transformers? It started to kind of unfold, you know, like this, and it turned into a gilded Vedic temple. And on the platform, there was this devotee with a harmonium, and it had microphone and speakers, and he began leading the kirtan from this gilded stage. And so that was my first encounter with Indra, and they said, oh, that's all he does. He just, you know, apparently he'd been a book distributor, and then he managed to save up enough money for this van, and this was all he did.